Wine had grown up in a world that didn't know mercy. At 21, she found herself doing everything she could to survive. Her parents had passed away when she was just a child, leaving her in the care of her aunt, a woman whose heart was as cold as the steel bars of the gates that imprisoned Wine in her own house. Wine, get over here now, her aunt's voice pierced through the thin walls of their small, run-down apartment. Wine hurried, fear tightening her chest. She knew what would come if she didn't respond quickly. She entered the cramped living room, her eyes lowered. Her aunt glared at her, a mix of disdain and impatience in her gaze. Why is there dust on this shelf? Her aunt demanded, pointing to a barely noticeable speck of dust on a bookshelf. I'm sorry, Auntie, I'll clean it right away. Wine whispered, grabbing a cloth, her hands trembled. Not from fear of her aunt, but from exhaustion. She had been up since dawn, scrubbing floors and washing clothes. Her aunt's anger wasn't limited to dirty shelves. She often found reasons to lash out, sometimes with words, sometimes with blows. Wine bore the scars of these outbursts both on her skin and deep within her heart. Make sure you clean it properly, and don't forget you have to go to the club tonight. They need you to serve. Her aunt reminded her sharply. Wine noted the club was another kind of hell, but at least there she could earn some money, most of which her aunt took. It wasn't much, but it kept her in the house instead of the streets. The club was loud, filled with the sound of laughter, clinking glasses, and the heavy beat of music. Wine moved between the tables, a tray balanced on one hand, delivering drinks to customers who barely noticed her. It was better that way. Attention could mean trouble. She approached a table in the corner where a group of men sat, their voices low and serious. As she placed their drinks on the table, she felt a strange sensation, like someone was watching her intently. She glanced up and found herself looking into the dark, intense eyes of a man she had seen only once or twice before. He was handsome in a rugged way, with a strong jawline and piercing eyes that seemed to look right through her. His name was Jungkook, and he was known around the club as someone not to be messed with. With a dangerous repetition, "Hey, what's your name?" Jungkook asked, his voice smooth but commanding. "Wine." She replied softly, trying to avoid his gaze. "Wine," he repeated, as if testing the sound of her name. "Pretty name. Do you like working here?" She hesitated, unsure to how to respond. "It's okay." Chunk chuckled, a deep, resonant sound. "You don't have to lie to me. I can tell you hate it here." Wine didn't know what to say. She didn't want to anger him by being too honest, but lying to him felt dangerous too. She just nodded slightly, hoping that would be enough. "You should come sit with us," Chungkook suggested, his eyes never leaving her face. I can't. I have to work," One stammered, taking a step back. But before she could leave, Jungkook reached out and grabbed her wrist gently but firmly. "I insist." There was a finality in his tone that made her heart race. She glanced around, but no one seemed to notice what was happening. Reluctantly, she sat down next to him, her body tense and her mind racing with thoughts of what could happen next. Jungkook leaned in closer, his voice low and teasing. "You don't belong here, you know that." Wine blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, a girl like you, you're too good for a place like this." He sat, his fingers still wrapped around her wrist, his touch sending an unfamiliar shiver down her spine. "I don't have a choice," Wine whispered, trying to pull her hand away, but Jungkook's grip tightened slightly. "There is always a choice," he murmured, his eyes narrowing as he studied her face. "You just have not found the right one yet." Wine couldn't know how to respond. Her life had been dictated by others. Choices for so long that she didn't even know what her choices were anymore. But something in Jungkook's case made her feel noticed for the first time in a long time. Listen, line, Jungkook said softly, leading even closer. I want you to come with me. I can take you away from this place, give you a better life. Wine's eyes widened. What? No, I can't. I don't even know you. You don't need to know me. Just trust me. He said with a dangerous smile. I can give you more than this place ever will. But my aunt, Wine started, but Chungo cut her off. I will deal with her, he said coldly. She won't hurt you again. Wine's heart pounded in her chest. Part of her wanted to believe him, to think that maybe this was her chance to escape. But another part of her was terrified. She didn't know who Jungkook really was or what he wanted from her. I can't. Wine sat finally, trying to stand up, but Jungkook's hand tightened on her wrist, pulling her back down. You don't get it, Ryan, he said softly, his voice now deadly serious. I'm not asking. Fish shot through her as his words sunk in. This wasn't a request, it was an order, and she was too scared to disagree. Jungkook led Wine out of the club, his grip firm on her wrist, guiding her through the back alley. Wine's heart raced as they walked in silence. She didn't know where he was taking her, but the fear of the unknown was better than the uncertainty of the abuse she faced at home. They reached a sleek black car parked at the end of the alley. Jungkook opened the door and motioned for her to get in. Where are we going? Wine asked, her voice trembling. Somewhere safe. Jungkook replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. Get in. Wine hesitated for a moment before climbing into the car. Jungkook slid in beside her, closing the door and signaling the driver to go. As the car sped away, Wine glanced nervously at Jungkook, who seemed deep in thought. Why are you doing this? She asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Jungkook turned to her, his expression unreadable. Because I want you, and when I want something, I get it. Wine's breath catch in her throat. She didn't know what to make of these words, but the intensity in his eyes made her shiver. She had never met anyone like him before, someone who could be so calm and yet so terrifying at the same time. They drove in silence for a while until they reached a large, imposing mansion. Jungkook got out first, then helped Wine out of the car, leading her inside. The mansion was grand, filled with luxurious furniture and artwork. But despite its beauty, Wine couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled in her stomach. Jungkook led her to a room at the end of a long hallway, opening the door and motioning for her to enter. This will be your room, he said simply. Wine stepped inside, glancing around. It was much nicer than any room she had ever stayed in before, but she couldn't enjoy it. All she could think about was how she was now completely at Jungkook's mercy.